Hello everybody and welcome to the fourth round of the 1993 season for the San Marino Grand Prix here on F1 Challenge. We head to the famous Imola circuit, a track known for its difficult nature with many sharp turns and high curbs. If you missed the last episode at the European Grand Prix, make sure to go and check that one out before you watch this one, as it was our first home Grand Prix of our career, where things didn't really go as planned. We'll be hoping to bounce back at Imola today, with the qualifying objective now a top 16 start for the Grand Prix, while we must finish in the top 12 once again in the race. Now, let's head to the news of the week. Hello and welcome to the San Marino edition of the News of the Week, where we start off with an update from the Brazilian Grand Prix. If you guys remember when Fabrizio Barbazza spun off to the side of the road thanks to an engine failure, he crashed into his teammate's stricken car that was left in the gravel. The FIA have noted this was extremely unsafe, with Barbazza lucky to escape without injury, and as such have enforced a mandated maximum length between marshal posts of 200 metres going forward, so cars can be pulled away from the side of the road easier. The FIA have also announced a massive regulation change for 1994, with all driving aids banned from the start of next season. This comes after both Benetton drivers and Ayrton Senna crashed into the pit lane entry wall at the European Grand Prix. In scrutineering, it was found that the car's active suspension had failed coming into the pit lane, with the computer confusing it for a bump on the main straight. As such, each car twitched, sending them all into the barriers. Ayrton Senna has been quoted to say that this is the way forward and it should be more about the drivers rather than the car being able to do all the hard work for you. Rumours around the paddock suggest that this could be Michele Alboretto's final race for the foreseeable future, with no obvious improvement at Donington Park. However, he'll be hoping to prove his worth at his home Grand Prix. Onto the upgrades for the teams, and Ford have introduced a brand new B-spec engine for this Grand Prix, outputting in the region of an extra 10 to 15 horsepower. McLaren and Benetton will be the main beneficiaries, as this should allow them to catch up to the ever-dominant Williams. Lotus and Minardi will also see these improvements, as they will be expecting a much higher chance of scoring their first points of the season. Benetton also fetch another upgrade of their own, with a front downforce update, allowing better turning on corner entry for the many chicanes around this Italian circuit. Williams also do the same, although with it being rushed it is doubtful that it will give as much of an improvement to their package as it has done to their Italian rivals. Footwork and Minardi also follow this philosophy, with Minardi especially desperate to get a good result at their home Grand Prix. Tyrrell come to San Marino with an upgrade to their front and rear wings, with a design allowing for less drag, which should have a minor improvement in traction zones around the circuit, as well as better straight line speed on the massive Tamburello straight. Sauber introduces new brakes for their car, with new carbon fibre ones, suggesting that failures should happen less. That's all for the news of the week. Now let's head into qualifying. Hello and welcome to qualifying day for the San Marino Grand Prix. We've waited a fair few amount of minutes, about 20 or so minutes, before going out for our first run. It's a very hot session, approximately 37 degrees Celsius, I believe it said. And yeah, I'm hoping that the landscape of the front runners at least will be a lot closer, with Ford fetching that big upgrade for the Ford powered teams, of course. And yeah, for myself, we'll be hoping for a much better time of it in qualifying. We were only 20th last time out in Donington Park as we begin our first lap. I was planning on once again doing the 2 laps per run, but unfortunately, because it's such high temperatures, we were only able to do 1 lap at a time, in which I found out by the end of this lap, over the final couple of curbs, and we set our first time as a 22.5, as see on there on the right, overheating on the engine, so we weren't able to really do a second lap. I did try and push it, but over the curbs way too much at Acqua Minerale, ended that run early. As we see one of the Williams going through. Ayrton Senna did have the fastest time, but now it's Alain Prost. Those two are jostling for pole position, which is exactly what we want to see at the front of the field. As This lap right here that we're coming onto is my final lap of the qualifying session. And the reason why that was my final lap in qualifying is because that was an almost perfect lap. Takes us to 7th place. I imagine that some people are going to beat that lap, but surely that has got to be enough to put us in the top 10. It's an absolutely fantastic lap from us, and it's put us in a very good position for the race, at least, with this track being quite difficult for overtaking, as now we head on to the race. Hello and welcome to race day for the 1993 San Marino Grand Prix, where for the first time this season, Alain Prost is not on pole position. He's beaten by his Brazilian rival Ayrton Senna to top spot by 1/4 of a second. Michael Schumacher sets off from 3rd place with championship leader Damon Hill in the 2nd Williams in 4th. Riccardo Patrese completes the top 5, just ahead of Jean Alesi and myself, who didn't actually get out qualified by anyone else. That's our first top 10 start of our career, and obviously a career best. We start just ahead of the 2nd Ferrari of Gerhard Berger, with Martin Brundle and Rubens Barrichello completing the top 10. Mark Blundell, meanwhile, was a bit of his teammate and starts 11th ahead of Michael Andretti. Eddie Irvine in the 2nd Jordan starts on the 7th row alongside his fellow Brit Johnny Herbert. Carl Fenlinger in the 1st Sauber, just ahead of his teammate Jyrki Järveläto, with Derek Warwick ahead of the 1st Minardi of Christian Fittipaldi in the upgraded Minardi. Philippe Alliot, my teammate, over a second off me in qualifying. He sets off from 19th in car 19. Alessandro Zanardi completes the top 20 with Andrea De Cesaris in 21st. I believe that's the second time he's out-qualified his teammate Ukio Katsuyama, who starts 36,000th behind the Italian. Aguri Suzuki, his compatriot, another fairly poor qualifying from him. He qualified well in Donington, but it's not so good once again from the Japanese driver. He sets off from 23rd ahead of Fabrizio Barbazza and the two Scuderia Italias, with Michele Alboreto 8/10 off his teammate in what could possibly be his final Grand Prix of his career, as we now line up onto the grid to start the 4th round of the 1993 season. There are the lights. 2, 3, 4 red lights. And we are away. The lights are green. There's racing to be seen. And there's yellow flags in the background. It's another poor start for us, as Mark Blundell and Rubens Barrichello get the jump on us towards turn 1. We get straight back past Barrichello, and now in the slipstream of Mark Blundell in the Ligier, can we possibly make a move into the Tosa corner? It's a very long run in towards this corner. Mark Blundell blocks that off, and we lift off slightly to get a bit of breathing room between us and the Brits, but he holds it round the outside into Tosa, as there was an incident or two at the back. We're looking at Derek Warwick. I believe he might have been one of the drivers who stalled on the grid. It is, And his teammate did as well, Aguri Suzuki, so both footworks have stalled, as has the Ligier of Martin Brundle. Derek Warwick and Aguri Suzuki both out of the race, but Martin Brundle, he's not retired just yet, and he has got it rolling, and he is going to be into this race still. He's not out of the race. He's got a lot of catching up to do if he wants to score any championship points. He's had a fairly poor start to the season with 3 retirements so far this year. Alessandro Zanardi, meanwhile, running straight into the back of Andrea de Cesaris, and he's collected his teammate Ukio Katayama, so disaster for Tyrrell. De Cesaris, his poor start to the season, is carrying on with his teammate now requiring a new front nose cone as we head into the Aqua Minerale section for the first time in this Grand Prix. We are on a 2-stop strategy, stopping around lap 23 and 38, I believe our scheduled pit stop laps were. We're kind of getting dropped a little bit by Mark Blundell as it currently stands, about a second to him, and Rubens Barrichello is all over the back of us, possibly indicating that the Jordan driver is on a much lighter fuel load than we are in this early stage, as Ayrton Senna has the early advantage. He leads this race ahead of Alain Prost and Michael Schumacher. Damon Hill, the championship leader, in 4th ahead of the second Benetton of Riccardo Patrese, with John Lacey on Ferrari's home turf starting the second lap in 6th, just ahead of his teammate, ending lap 2. And we're not really being dropped too much by Mark Blundell. We're kind of keeping the pace, as Alessandro Zanardi's been given a 10-second time penalty for his incident with Andrea de Cesaris. But yeah, the pace does seem good as it currently stands. Going into the 4th lap. And yeah, that's yellow flags up ahead. What's going on at Tosa? That's a Benetton off into the wall. That's Riccardo Patrese. He must have had a massive crash. He's lost a wheel, I did see. Well, let's see what's happened to the Italian in towards Tosa. And it's a brake failure for the Italian. He's gone smashing straight into the barriers. Hopefully he's okay, but that was a massive impact for Riccardo Patrese. Hopefully he's going to get out of the car okay, as we start lap 5 now. And that's another retirement. Johnny Herbert out with suspension troubles. He was right behind us, actually. That was just us in the foreground there. And Johnny Herbert, he'll pull off to the side of the road, and he is out. His day is done very early on, and that will stop any chance of Lotus realistically scoring points, as Zanardi's got a penalty, of course. And we see we're not really being dropped by Mark Blundell. It's only 2 seconds the gap after the opening 7 laps. On lap 10, we're still within about 2 seconds. But we do lose out a place to Rubens Barrichello. We go a little bit wide over the curb, and we bottom out a little bit, and that's allowed Barrichello to sneak through into the final set of chicanes. We've got a replay of how Rubens Barrichello did that. Yeah, we just kind of bottomed out, and it kind of I kind of had to just get off the throttle just not to spin on the curb, and through goes Barrichello, and he is up into 8th place. He probably deserves to be ahead in all fairness, because he is a lot faster than us in this current phase of the race. Although we are picking up quite a nice slipstream off the back of the Jordan. Maybe we could retaliate in towards Tosa. We are gaining on the Brazilian in towards Tosa. We look to the outside of the corner, around the outside of Rubens Barrichello. He's holding it on the inside. It's going to be a straight shoot up to the Piratella now. Back in the slipstream once again. Can we switch it to the inside of the corner? No. It would have been a bit of a death sentence going for a move like that into such a fast speed corner, as Ayrton Senna already into the pit lane for his first stop. I believe this is on the end of lap 12, so that's indicating that he's possibly on a 3-stop strategy, sorry. And Alain Prost takes the lead of the Grand Prix. As we see just half a lap later, after Rubens Barrichello got past us, he's already gapped us by 3 seconds, and he's all over the back now of Mark Blundell. We've got Michael Andretti on the back of us as Rubens Barrichello on lap 15 pulls into the pit lane, and we get re-promoted back into 8th position. Michael Andretti on this next lap is also going to be into the pit lane, so he and Rubens possibly on a 3-stop strategy, as is Gerhard Berger, but he's just come out ahead of us. Yeah, so it's definitely looking good for us right now, with drivers on heavier fuel loads not being able to get past us. Eddie Irvine is also into the box. Yes, he is. And Carl Wendlinger is promoted into 9th position. And there's been yellow flags waved in Sector 2. Let's see what's happened on board here with Jean Alesi. He's dealing with some lap traffic. That's Michele Alboreto just ahead of the Ferrari. And he's going for a bit of an ambitious move into such a tight corner. And he's paid the price, had a half spin, and he's let through the Benetton of Michael Schumacher. And he's had to concede a couple of places there as well to some lap cars. Alain Prost on lap 20, I believe this is, in for his first stop of the Grand Prix. And by the time he comes out of the pit lane, he has indeed done enough to get out ahead of Ayrton Senna. A brilliant overcut strategy. I believe Prost, with the way he's boxed on lap 20, is on a 2-stop strategy. So Senna's got it all to do. He's got to overtake and then increase the gap to the Frenchman by about 20 seconds if he wants to take the race lead in this next set of stops. As Carl Wendling is dropping back, he's had a bit of damage. Supposedly he's lost his front wing. See what's happened with the Austrian. He's gone into the pit lane, and that's way too late on the brakes, Carl. And you've gone straight into the wall. I know he's not a rookie, but that is certainly a rookie-style error from the Austrian. And he is out of the race. Into the box then, on lap 24, we were able to extend the stint a little bit more. Thanks to the fuel load that we were on. The fuel burn is not as much as we were expecting. And rejoining after 11-second pit stop fetches us out behind Michael Andretti. Can we stay ahead of Eddie Irvine? No. So we come out in 13th place on lap 25. Like Barrichello though, we've got a great slipstream on the Jordan drive and we could possibly have a crack into the Tosa corner. Looking towards the outside once again, Irvine blocks that off and we can't get away through on the Ulsterman, and we remain in 13th place for now. By the end of lap 25, you can see that Eddie Irvine has already pulled out a massive gap to us as Alessandro Zanardi is in for his pit stop. And on lap 26, I believe this is, Alain Prost holds the lead at the moment, just ahead of Ayrton Senna by around a second. Damon Hill is ahead of Michael Schumacher in that battle for third, with Jean Alesi in fifth and Mark Blundell holding off Gerhard Berger for sixth. We currently sit in 12th place with Christian Fittipaldi, who is down in 18th place. He's up to 13th, so he's had a fairly decent start. And the driver at the front of this queue, we're not really being dropped by the 3 stoppers around us, is because Felipe Alio on the 1 stop is holding up drivers just ahead of us. So we're not really losing any time to the cars in front, so this could play out really well for us in the long term, especially if they have an extra stop more than us, which I believe they do. There's a Scuderia Italia there that Michael Andretti is trying to get past, and it's allowed us to close in right to the back of Eddie Irvine, and now we've got a run on him into the Variante Bassa. We get past Luca Badoa. That's a thank you very much, Luca Badoa. He's allowed us to get a very easy position there, and we're up into the top 10. Ending lap 29, and Rubens Barrichello's in for his second stop of the race on lap 29, of course. So he's definitely on a 3-stop strategy. Because we're not really being dropped now by Michael Andretti. He's been held up behind, I believe that's Ukio Katayama's Tyrrell, and we could possibly make a move on a McLaren here in towards the I forgot what these called. The Rivazzas, that's what they're called. Once again, there's Michele Alboreto. He's ahead of his teammate right now, and he's possibly showing the best race that he's done all season. And we've got a run here on Michael Andretti in the McLaren in towards the Variante Bassa in the slipstream, but we can't really make a move. Unfortunately for us, Sector 3 is quite a strong sector for the AI. Meanwhile, Ayrton Senna from second place boxes for the second time on lap 31. He's in for definitely a 3-stop strategy. And yeah, he's definitely going to have his work put out for him if he wants to take his second victory of the season. Michael Andretti then starting to pull away from us ever so slightly, but he's in for his second stop of the race, so he's definitely on a 3-stop strategy as well, and that promotes us up into 8th place. And that's Damon Hill, championship leader Damon Hill. He's out of the race. Damon Hill, engine failure for the Renault, and that's the second Renault engine failure for Williams this season. Alain Prost had one in Kyalami, and now Damon Hill has suffered from one. That's his second retirement of the season, and that's going to fetch us up into 7th place. So could there possibly be a chance of some championship points for us? And that's Mark Blundell. He's out of the race as well. Gearbox problems for the Briton. You can hear there, he's definitely stuck in gear. And that's Mark Blundell out as well. So 2 big names out in as many laps. And that's going to promote us up into 6th position. Mark Blundell into the pits then to retire his car. And there we go, 6th place for us. We do have to stop again in this race. But I believe so does everyone else. So this is a straight fight with, I believe, it'll be Rubens Barrichello. And Michael Schumacher's out. Schumacher! Unbelievable! He's out of the race as well. He's all over the back of my teammate Felipe Alio trying to lap him. He's spun himself around. That surely hasn't retired him though. And he's tried to spin the car around on the grass and he's just driven straight into the wall. Oh, and that, Michael, that is not how you recover back onto the circuit. On board with Alio, yeah, that was a desperate move there from Michael Schumacher. I'm not sure why he's done that entirely. And now we move up into 5th position. This is an absolute dream race for us, up into 5th. And we could be on course for our first championship points of our career. And now behind us we see, we've seen this face before, Alain Prost right behind us with blue flags. We'll make sure to get past him in as safe as manner as possible. There we go, make sure to not drive into the back of the Williams this time, Jaden. And as Prost is into the pits a couple of laps later, he's in from the race lead. And when he came out of the pit lane, once again, there's Ayrton Senna in the background. He has done enough, once again, to jump the McLaren in the pit phase. He was having to deal with JJ Leto making his pit stop. And while Alain Prost was making his pit stop, we also made our way into the pit lane. And a 12-second stop for us will fetch us out in 11th place behind Martin Brundle, who I believe has to stop in this race, but he's recovered well from his stalling antics. And we're looking on course for points, pretty safe points, until we spin round and we've hit the wall. That's another mistake from us this season. And it's just another case of driver error. One little mistake has cost us everything. We just hit the start of the curb, and that was enough to unsettle the car and take off our rear wing. And it's yet another race where we've fallen foul to just such a simple error. And we made our way into the pit stop. And yeah, that's another devastating way. And that's pretty much any chance of us getting any form of a decent result over in this Grand Prix. And yeah, speeding up the pit lane. The pit stop, sorry, and it ended up being, how long is the pit stop? A 44-second pit stop. Absolutely disastrous for us, and that will seal our fate in not scoring any points, essentially. Maybe our teammate can though. We're over almost a minute behind Fabrizio Barbazza now, as Alain Prost is being put under a load of pressure by Ayrton Senna, but the McLaren driver is in for his 3rd pit stop of the race. And yeah, Ayrton Senna, he is a lot closer to the Williams, but he's definitely not quite there in terms of pace yet. He's come out a couple of seconds ahead of this man right here, Jean Lacey, who completes the podium for now. And Yuki Yarvaleto, he's in the wars, just like his teammate, I believe it is. Yeah, into the pit lane, and he's broke way too late into the pit entry, and he is also going to be out of this Grand Prix. So that's 2 Sauber drivers making the simplest of mistakes. Oh, I can't talk much about mistakes, can I, though? As we make our way up into 13th place. And Fabrizio Barbazza makes his pit stop. but as you can see, we're still miles behind, almost 30 seconds. Over 30 seconds, almost 40 seconds behind. Sorry. As now we see Ayrton Senna lapping us. I believe this is for the second time in this Grand Prix. We're letting through just like how we did with Alain Prost. And Alain Prost does lead after the final round of pit stops. He leads by a comfortable margin ahead of Ayrton Senna, who sits in second place, with Jean Alesi currently locking out the podium. Ferrari on course for quite a few points at their home Grand Prix, with Eddie Irvine, I believe, is yet to stop in 5th, with Christian Fittipaldi coming in for his final stop. He's in 6th, but gets overtaken by Barrichello. So it's 2 Jordans and 2 Ferraris currently situating in the points. Then make our way into Tosa. And that's another yellow flag. That's Jean Alesi. That's a Ferrari. Absolutely steaming into the barriers, just like Riccardo Patrese did. And we saw that one live on board there with Jean Alesi almost taking out the Scuderia Italia. And that's another big crash at Tosa. And there could be injuries for both Jean Alesi and Riccardo Patrese. It's a massive impact for both those drivers in this race, as Gerhard Berger will be promoted now up into the podium places. He scored his first finish and first podium of the season in not San Marino, Donington Park. As Alessandro Zanardi, he's got gearbox problems. We'll make our way, we should be able to make our way past Jean Alesi soon, as Alessandro Zanardi, yep, that sounds like a sick gearbox, alright, and he's going to be out of this race as well. Remember, our race objective was a top 12, and we are currently in that position, overtaking Alessandro Zanardi now, and we are up into 11th place. So despite having a crash and a monstrous pit stop, and that's Barrichello out, and almost certain points for Barrichello. Once again goes begging like in Kyle Army. Engine failure from the Hart engine, and that is going to be Barrichello out of this race. More points go begging for the Brazilian, and that's going to put us into the top 10 with just a few laps to go in this race. I'm surprised that we've been able to recover this well, even though it's been quite lucky that we've managed to get ourselves into the top 10, as there is Christian Fittipaldi now promoted into 6th place from Barrichello's engine failure. He's got Martin Brundle all over the back of him. He was stalled on the grid at the start of this race, and now he's fighting for the final championship point with the Brazilian of Christian Fittipaldi. Will he be able to get through on the inside into Tosa? Not quite, as Alain Prost, he's not put a single foot wrong in this Grand Prix, out-strategized the McLaren of Ayrton Senna, and he will come across the line to take his first win of the season. Alain Prost wins the 1993 San Marino Grand Prix. So then it's Alain Prost who takes his first win for Williams and his first win of the season, 17 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna. Gerhard Berger scores his second consecutive podium this season, with Eddie Irvine scoring a career-best 4th place. Michael Andretti repeats his South African result of 5th, with Christian Fittipaldi indeed holding off Martin Brundle in those final couple of laps to score 6th place and his first and Minardi's first point of the season. Felipe Alio in 8th, with Fabrizio Barbazza and myself completing the top 10. Ukio Katayama in 11th, with Alboreto and Luca Badoa the last cars to reach the checkered flag. Alboreto beating his teammate Badoa for the first time this season in a race. Rubens Barrichello out in 14th. 6 laps down he was classified with an engine failure. Alessandro Zanardi with gearbox issues, with Jean Alesi having that massive crash on the entry into Tosa. Hopefully he is okay to race for the next coming rounds. JJ Leto out, crashing into the pit lane entry, as did his teammate Carl Wendlinger. Very strange incident for both of those drivers. Michael Schumacher, an error on his half, trying to spin it round his car, and he ended up crashing into the barriers. Mark Blundell retired halfway through the race with a gearbox issue. Meanwhile, the lap before, Damon Hill went out with an engine problem. Johnny Herbert went out with suspension problems. Riccardo Patrese, in a very similar incident to Jean Alesi, will be hoping that he is not injured for the next coming rounds, as Andrea De Cesaris was taken out by Alessandro Zanardi. Derek Warwick and Aguri Suzuki, both the footworks, Stalling on the grid, Warwick electronics problem, while Suzuki was a clutch issue. Well, what does this mean for the Drivers' Championship? Damon Hill still leads, but he's now been matched on points by Ayrton Senna, 20 apiece for those two. Alain Prost just a further 4 points behind after his first win of the season. Gerhard Berger, 2 consecutive podiums, takes him up to 4th ahead of Michael Schumacher, who has had 3 retirements in the past 3 rounds. Jean Alesi and Mark Blundell also on 6 points, with Rubens Barrichello looking on course to possibly take more points, but retired late on, still on 5 points. He's now met alongside him Eddie Irvine, who's moved ahead of Michael Andretti on countback. Yuki Yavaleto in 11th with Patrese in 12th, and Christian Fittipaldi moving up to 13th with his first point of the season. Felipe Aleo moves down to 14th, while the remaining 12 drivers have not scored points. We currently now sit in 19th place and have been moved down a position thanks to Martin Brundle's 7th place finish is what he got in the race. Onto the constructors now, and Williams eke out a slight gap over McLaren. The gap is now 12 points, 36 ahead of 24. Ferrari move clear of Benetton, who now fall behind Jordan. They are now on 9 points against Benetton's 8. Ligier are on 6, with Sauber on 3, and Minardi moving ahead of LaRousse, but each of the teams on 1 point. 4 teams yet to score in Footwork, Lotus, Scuderia Italia and Tyrrell. If you enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe. There'll be a stream on Sunday in which we'll be taking part in an online league, in which it's the season decider and I am in the championship battle. So if you want to see more content like this, make sure to check that one out on Sunday. See you next time in Catalonia for the next episode of the Spanish Grand Prix. Goodbye.